So good evening, it's Lottie here, and I am at a beautiful location tonight. I am at, and I'm going to have to look at the words, Guadalmedallo de Segura. It's a beautiful place in Spain that I've come across to look for couple retreats, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. So let's do some housekeeping first, and then we're going to talk about the predictability of habits. And when I talk about that, I'm talking about communication, the arguments that we have, and the things that perpetually go round and round and round. So welcome to the Facebook page. This will be put out on the Facebook probably in a few days. And tonight I'm going to be talking about how we can secure a better relationship with our partner so that we're not arguing so much. So while you're deciding to whether come on this or listen to it afterwards, then please be careful what you say when you come on, if you do, because this is being recorded. So my name is Lottie. If some of you know me, some of you don't. And this was usually for couples, but therapists can join into this as well if they want to. And it gives you the opportunity to listen to some of the things that I'm really interested about, some information, some learning, and really get you to think about how you're arguing with each other and really take away all that fluff around what we say to each other so we can actually ask each other, actually, what do you want from me? So we can cut some of that stuff out so we can actually start to heal or repair some of the things that actually are playing out in your relationship, which are from the past. So let's begin, shall we? So what I want to talk about first is I want to explore the reoccurring habits of why we're rowing in the way that we do and how some of these are rooted in our family of origin. They're also connected to how we get affected with our intimacy and sex, and how we actually have a conflict style within a relationship. So what I want to do is look at some insights and some tools to help you with your relationship as you go along and see if we can get you to think about this differently. Now, I am sitting outside because it's such beautiful weather. So I do apologize if there's some sounds of cars and children and different things. Obviously, if it gets too crazy, I'll turn it off and go inside. So I'm in an apartment, absolutely beautiful here, but I thought I would sit outside. So I'm going to ask you an opening question, first of all. Have you ever noticed how the same arguments or feelings keep coming back, even though you think you've resolved them? When I say that to you, what I'm saying is, do you notice that when you have the second argument, actually the first argument actually slightly comes into the second argument, and then the third argument has something that actually connects to the first and second argument? So actually we haven't resolved anything at all. And in my practice, I have people coming into my therapy room saying 20 years ago, you didn't turn up when I thought you were going to be there for me. Okay, so this is a resentment that's held 20 years ago. Now, when we think about that, we are, as human beings, really good at holding on to things that actually affect us in very, very deep-rooted ways. And we'll come on to family of origin in a minute, and that's where that's connected to. But if we are on a continual loop of arguing again and again and again, what will happen to the relationship is these 4 things that I'm going to read out to you now. We will get emotionally disconnected with each other. Okay, so the predictability of the link that we have, that we keep doing, we will have some sort of disconnection emotionally with our partner. Okay, and it will be like going through the motions. So we'll be doing the same thing, the same argument will come up. We will then be talking to each other in quite a hostile way. And we'll be talking about John Gottman when we talk about contempt, stonewalling, criticism, and defensiveness. And defensiveness is the first one that comes out when we're trying to argue with each other. Okay, so we're not actually acting in a mature way. We're actually going back to child, which is defensive. The other thing that can affect the relationship, if we keep doing the loop of arguing, is boredom and resentment. So if we feel that we're stuck in this real monotonous routine, nothing changes no matter what I say or do, we then start to stop talking to each other. We just don't bother. I've said it, you've heard it, you've ignored it, I've been dismissed, I'm not going to bother to say it again. Now, when couples come and see me, it is so, so important that I'm hearing them argue. Okay, conflict is growth trying to happen. When I've got numbness in the room, that's when I start to think, I wonder where this relationship is going. So all the time you've got this energy about you, it means that you want to resolve it. But what we've got to learn to do is resolve it well. Let's really put that to bed. Is there anything left over from it that you would be bringing up later on with me? And that's what we don't want to do. Then we've got lonely in the familiar. So you can be in a relationship and seem okay, but actually you can be really lonely and not share that with your partner. So these predictabilities of habits can create an emotional distance, leaving them feeling unseen, unheard, dismissed, not getting needs met, which they really are trying to say. Can I just say this one more time? Can I say this louder so that you can hear me better? That doesn't work either. What we're trying to do is get couples to really go what we call a mature conversation with each other, so that we can have that adult to adult process. When I talked to you before about TA, transaction analysis, we're talking about parent, adult, child, and we're looking at which one are you in when you're talking to your partner. Is it a child mode and a parent mode? Is it both parental and trying to get the better of each other? Or is it actually adult to adult? And you can actually say to each other, you know, I am not feeling safe in this relationship at the moment. So you're not saying to your partner, you make me feel unsafe, which is attacking. What you're saying is, I feel for myself really unsafe in this relationship. And I'm hoping your partner will say, tell me more. The curiosity of relationships is so, so important. So if we can have an opportunity to go, tell me more, why are you feeling unsafe? Give me an idea of what's making you feel unsafe in this relationship, instead of attacking and saying, well, I do everything for you. I provide, I give, I nurture, I do whatever it is that I do for you. Why is it you think that it's not enough? That just dismisses the person who's just said, I need to be vulnerable with you just for this minute so you can hear me. And then I want you to come back with something that gives me a response to know that I've been heard. So that's really, really important. We can feel very lonely even though we're in relationships. And then there can be a feeling of being trapped. Okay, the loop. Okay, this is what I call it, the loop that goes round, the same argument. It might be dressed up a little bit different, but actually it's the same argument, but it's lack of respect. So what we need in a relationship to not have that feeling is we need some growth, some novelty. The couple need to feel that they're not on autopilot, that they can not feel frustrated or stagnating all the time. What we need to do is get the couple to really think about outside the box. This is why sometimes I do relationships visions with my clients, because it gives you an opportunity. So you write down 10 things each, you don't show them to each other, and you give each other an opportunity to see what you want. So I would like for us in this relationship. And if you actually look at what's been written down, and what they do is they come back to therapy and then they embellish it. So I would like some more communication. What does that look like? You can actually see the conflicts of where it's not going to fit, and the alignment of where it actually fits. And what we're doing with the conflicts is actually saying, okay, let's look at this and see how we can negotiate it. When we compromise stuff in our brain, okay, we think we're giving up something. If we start to negotiate, what could I give and what could you give, instead of what can I take and what can you take? It changes the dynamic, it changes the neural pathway completely. So when we talk about family of origin, which I've mentioned, so I look at that as templates for love, life, and laughter. So think about how you were growing up in your family and what were the patterns and the behaviors that you witnessed. So family of origin is not blaming parents. It's an opportunity to actually explore, so the inner child work, and actually where you came from and what patterns, what bias, what origins, what template, what culture you were brought up in, gives you a real sense of actually who you are in this relationship now. So if we think about a situation where your partner might be triggering you in some way, that might not be because they're triggering you in this moment. It will be something from your past that's actually triggering you in the here and now. Okay, so it's something from the past that we've got to look at. This work is wonderful because when I do my assessments, I profile my clients. So they give me all the information that I need, and then I profile them. So I say, it really sounds to me that from your parents' template, you have now taken on being dismissive or attacking or absent or what else could it be? Overwhelmed, feelings of not being able to cope in the relationship. So many things that we can get from the family of origin. And I'm a great believer, parents knew what parents knew and vice versa, and on and on and on, the history that we do. So thinking about that for a minute, I want you to think about your own family of origin, okay? And maybe write a few things down. Think about a template that you've taken from that and how you're playing it out in your relationship. And believe me, it won't work. You've got to now make a new script for this relationship, okay? So there'll be some habits, some ways of being that you think is the right way of being. That was your parents' script. But now we're looking at the new script for the partnership that you've decided to be in. You've chosen this partnership. You know me, I always talk about differentiation. You're an I first, and then you choose to be a we. So you're choosing this relationship. So we've got to see what triggers are happening. And I am a great believer in, if you are clear about what trigger is triggering you, your partner cannot keep touching or pressing that button for you, because it's cruel. So once you know and you have that dialogue with each other, it's really important to stop doing that triggering for the other person and vice versa. So when we aren't in tune with our family of origin, we don't know what's we're not such an awareness, we then can have a misunderstanding of the patterns that are happening in the relationship. So this was cause us distance, and we need to find out how to actually reconnect with each other. That's why couples come to therapy. They've lost that they've disconnected, and they're really struggling to find that reconnection, and it is possible. Okay, we've just got to actually find out where they've come from. Okay, so as a child, and then think about where they're going to and what they would like it to look like. Yeah, so I call it restoring. Okay, we're going to restory what you had and actually make a new script. So some of us know her, most of us know her, Esther Perel. Her quote is, "Love rests on two pillars, surrender and autonomy. Our need for togetherness exists alongside our need for separation." That couldn't be more true. We need that differentiated self to be separate. I'm an I. I've got adventures, excitement, plans, dreams, imagination. That's you as an I. When we get with somebody, sometimes we will compromise that I, and we will go over to the we completely. Okay, and what we've got to do is we've got to find enough togetherness that bonds us and enough separation so the balance is just about right, because it's the separation that brings us closer. And I absolutely love that quote. I want you to write it down in your journals that I make all my clients write down, because it's such a beautiful quote. I'm going to say it again. Love rests on two pillars: surrender. That's my favorite word. Surrender and autonomy. Our need for togetherness exists alongside our need for separateness, which is so magical. So when we talk about autonomy, okay, I attach it to excitement. When we're autonomous, we can have our own thoughts, our own fantasies, our own way of being, our excitement, our imagination. So we are being an I. And I want us to think about, how do I bring that into the relationship and not change myself, not mold into the other person's family of origin or their ways of being? How can we find ourselves within a relationship without the relationship floundering and failing? And we've got to do the work while we're with that person. If they are the person you want to stay with, we're not separating from them. We're giving each other enough autonomy to be able to do that while we're in the relationship. A lot of people say, I need to split up with my partner because I can't find myself. You can have a separation that is contracted and say, right, okay, let's have 3 months distance. We'll contract how much we speak to each other, whether we text each other. It's all contracted, but we're not actually not doing the work as we go along. We're not ignoring each other. We're actually doing the work while we're doing the separation. Esther always says, okay, eroticism thrives in the space between the expected and the unexpected. So in a relationship, what we need to do is stop doing the cyclical arguing, going round and round in a circle, trying to get our needs met without saying actually what we want. So hinting is a real leveler in a relationship. You think you're going to sort of ask for something, you sort of half-heartedly ask for it, then you don't get the response you want, and then you start to argue. Hinting doesn't work. But what we're looking for here is, how can we add some of the unexpected to the relationship? So small surprises, okay, for both to deliver. Breaking the patterns can reignite intimacy and emotional connection. So I love little notes in the fridge, or in a packed lunch, or a little text, or these are the small things. They take seconds to do. You know, you would email a colleague, you would email your boss, you would have deadlines that you would meet. But in a relationship, we don't seem to do that. And I want all my clients to have their partner and their names in their phones, so that we have regular, and people call it contrived, it totally is, contrive that time together. So John Gottman talks about 6 hours a month. 1.5 hours a week to actually reconnect with each other. That won't happen if you don't do it. If work is too busy, or kids are too demanding, or family is visiting too much, whatever it might be, we've got to make that time. So I like to do it in these sort of like chunks. So it's like 15 minutes to talk about how are you? How are you? Not how's the day, how's the people, how are you? There's 15 minutes off your 6 hours. And then maybe another 15 minutes. There could be admin time. There could be talking about anything. Give yourself an opportunity to reconnect with each other, because you do everywhere else. If your friends phone you up and you're a bit tired, and they go, actually, we're just going down the pub, you find that energy to actually get dressed and put a bit of aftershave or perfume, and you're down that pub or wherever that might be. So we've got to find some energy for this relationship. We can't keep in this traumatic process of arguing all the time. And when I hear the family of origin, I can hear where that comes from. And I'll read some stuff out for you in a minute. So we've got to recognize the loop. Okay, why do you always pull away when we argue? Why do you have to always make, why do I have to always make the first move to reconnect, or with intimacy? So these are the behaviors that trigger us for disconnection. And our questions to ourselves and our partner is, why do I have to run after you? Why do I always feel like you pull away when I'm trying to say something to you? Now, the reason why this is happening is also about attachment styles, which we're not going to go into tonight, but I have done a live on that, is we are pulling away because of something that's happened in our past as a little child. There will be something protective happening to us. So when we talk about John Gottman stonewalling, people think it's rude and sulking and why are you not talking to me? It's overwhelm. Some people can get to there, some people can get to there. When they get to there, they've got to walk away, and it feels really rejection, really abandonment. Don't walk away from me, I'm talking to you. They can't, they have to walk away. They're not sure where that's going to take them. So as a child, they might have got under the bed. As a child, they might have gone round to their grandma's. They will get away from the situation. So arguing is an art form. How we argue is really, really important. And having that tone, okay, I talk about tone in my therapy room, that when the tone goes up slightly, we're incapable of hearing the other person well, because of the anxiety levels that then go up with that for ourselves. So we're talking about tone, we're talking about body language, we're talking about, what is it that you want to say to me? What do you need from me? What is it that you want? And that cuts a lot of the stuff out. Not that you can't talk about it afterwards. I felt really this, I felt really that. By then you'd have been calmer and you would be able to say to each other, that really was a difficult conversation to have when I was just about to say to you this. So I'm really glad you said, what do you want? So family of origin, in a nutshell, is the scripts that we internalize, the behaviors we see or saw as a child, the avoidance, the criticism, the shutting down. So let's just go through the John Gottman stuff just for a second. I do it a lot, okay? So John Gottman, he talks about criticism. So that's parent, that's sort of the waggy finger saying, you know, I've told you before, okay, as two adults, as a partnership, we do not want to have a parent situation, because the only way the other person go to is try to stay an adult. Please don't speak to me like that. Usually they go down to child and act out. Okay, so we've already got a situation where we cannot have a sexual relationship, or intimacy doesn't come online because we've got the wrong dynamic. What role are you playing? Yeah. Then we've got defensiveness, which is high on the list. We become defensive because we don't want to be blamed. And what we've got to do is think about what is my responsibility in this argument? What have I said that I want to actually apologize for? And I love you and sorries are precious. I love you needs to be said eye to eye contact. And sorry means to say that I'm not going to do that again to you. You say sorry, you do it again. It absolutely depletes the sorry in the first place. And people don't trust you. So what we're trying to do is really take the responsibility that we didn't as a child, maybe, or couldn't. What we're doing as an adult is we're taking responsibility of the part that you have played. There's two people in this relationship. Then we're looking at stonewalling, defensiveness, contempt. Contempt for me, when people come in, it depends on what degree of contempt they've gone to. If they've gone past that part of where they actually have gone to hate, and if you look contempt up, it's quite ugly. It's very difficult in therapy to pull people back from that contempt. Okay, they've lost that respect completely for the other person. If we've got them at that point where they're able to see that they're being really horrible, okay, and we're talking about internal thoughts as well as external thoughts, feelings that you have inside but you don't share, can be quite really hot, nasty, ugly. I want to call them ugly, okay, but you're not sharing them with your partner. This is what you think about them. It's destroying you because they don't know about it, okay. They might know it in a behavior, and what we've got to do is come away from contempt. I don't want us to be in that place, because I look at myself first. I want, you know, if you're being contemptuous, who am I becoming while I'm in this relationship? Because we become quite horrible, okay, and we've got to look out for that. How far has that contempt gone? So we've got stonewalling, defensiveness, criticism and contempt. I think the one I haven't done is stonewalling, which is overwhelmed. So stonewalling always looks like somebody's just walking off because they can and they don't care. You don't care about me, you're walking off yet again. The stonewalling is actually, as a child, they were overwhelmed by the chaos, or they were overwhelmed by the quiet. Okay, so one way or the other. So they will be trying to get away from something. So be mindful of that. If somebody's just walking away from you, it means that they've gone to there. Don't follow them and don't call them back. Just say, let's have time out, and let them go. Because I always do this. We've got the pursuer and the avoider. We've got somebody going, I'm not coping. We've got somebody, where are you going? Yeah, I need to get away. Yeah, but I'll come with you to see how you are. That doesn't work. It will erode the relationship, because there's no separateness to be close. It's all trying to be too close. So my sort of simple metaphor for this is like waiting. I don't know whether this works or not, but let's read it. It's like waiting to go on a roller coaster, then saying how awful it was, without realizing you chose to do it, and then waiting to go round again. So you come off, you feel sick, never doing that again. It's the loop, but I'm going to go back on it again. I'm going to make myself feel sick and horrible again. You might have a thrill, you might like it a little bit, same as arguing. Conflict is growth trying to happen. However, the loop of that roller coaster, okay, that you don't like in the first place, but you keep doing it again and again, is what we're talking about when we're talking about conflict. We stay in the power struggle too long as partnerships. We go into the power struggle, we stay there, we mix it up a little bit, we try and find out what our needs are, and then we come out of the power struggle and we stay out of it for months. Okay, not 2 days or 3 days or a few weeks. We stay out of it for months and we go along, and then we go back into the power struggle again, because something's come up. Something's been said, something's been outside of the family. So it might be a family member, illness, it might be something to do with your child, it might be friendship. There'd be a power struggle that happens. And it might not be just you two, it might be external stuff as well. We go back into it again. And then we've got to actually negotiate how we deal with that. If you think about the problem, instead of it's your fault or your fault, and you think about what's our problem, it separates it from both of you. Instead of saying you are, or I blame, or this is your fault, what is the problem? Put it on the table on a piece of paper. The problem is that you and I don't know how to communicate. Okay, let's look at that. What do you need from me right now? How could I help you feel better? And how could you help me feel better? So we can cut out all the arguing in the beginning. Then we can have a conversation about how we got to that argument in the first place. And does it feel cyclical? Are we going round and round and round all the time? And what's the benefit? How is it serving you? So you might have somebody who's come from a very chaotic family of origin. So the chaos is perpetuated in the relationship they're in, because they're used to it. So they will act out, they will bring something in, there'll be some sort of sabotage. We've got to actually quieten that nervous system, because they're missing that usual way of being. And that can be quite dismissive. Somebody who's chaotic and somebody who's come from a really quiet background won't be able to cope with that at all. So we've got to find out where you've come from. So when we look at intimacy and sex, the emotional disconnection can feel like rejection, okay? And one of my sayings is reject carefully, okay? When we reject each other in different ways, it's very, very painful. And I want people to start rejecting each other carefully. And we are going to be rejected at times, whether that's, I can't talk to you at the moment, can we schedule this in? or actually, I don't feel very horny at the moment. I don't want to do anything. Can we actually look at this tomorrow? We're actually given a suggestion that I'm not just rejecting you and we're not going to talk about it. Can we actually say something later? I'm feeling really tired. This rejection feeling is so hardcore. It goes right to the heart of us. We can go in the bathroom, we can look in the mirror and we can say to ourselves, that really hurt me. What am I doing here? Why am I with this person? And we want more communication with that. Otherwise, the disconnection gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And we don't say anything. So we need to learn to communicate with each other. This can put pressure on the relationship. And what happens is the arguing becomes more fueled. So what we're trying to do is take responsibility again for what part you're playing in it. If you're the one that's saying no, say it's not about me not wanting or loving you. It's about I'm really tired tonight, or actually I'm not feeling in that space at the moment. Really talking to each other. So I found this on the internet. So the over-functioner and the under-functioner dynamic, okay? One partner feels overwhelmed, the other disengages, separating with communication. The pursuer distance dynamic, one chases for connection, the other retreats to avoid overwhelm. So this is what I did just a minute ago. One person's going, I've got to get away from you. The other person is pursuing them. Okay, the first one is the partner feels overwhelmed and the other disengages, and then it stops it creates the lack of communication. So what we do is we mirror our partners on some occasion. So if they stonewall, we'll stonewall. Okay, if they attack and be defensive, we will then be. So we're mirroring. Those mirror neurons are so strong. And what we're doing is actually we're merging, okay, enmeshment with each other. And we don't really want to do that. We want to stay in that adult to adult place and go, I'm really noticing what's happening to you. Do we need time out? I'm really noticing that this is happening to you. So a really clear, pure communication. If you look back, I did the Imago dialogue, which is really powerful, where we slow everything down in a dialogue. It's a script. So if you look back, so anybody that's on the Facebook page can look back and look at that. And that is a really healthy way of talking to each other. So if you grew up with neglect, you might feel unsafe being close. If you grew up with chaos, you might struggle with things feeling calm. So when we meet somebody, we are trying to reenact unresolved family dynamics in the current relationship. So a partner raised by emotionally unavailable parents might unconsciously expect their partner to fix these wounds. This will cause lots of triggers for the other person when that person doesn't actually facilitate the closeness. And it may be because that person didn't have closeness themselves that they are then unable to facilitate that fix for the other person. So the bigger picture for that is we all need to do our inner child work ourselves. It is a lone journey, which you can share by communication with your partner. But actually the journey, I do believe, is a lone journey, working out your process, your reflection, your opportunity to work out why you keep going back into this dynamic with this partner and why you keep arguing with them. What's being triggered? Triggers, we say the word so simply and so easily, I'm getting triggered. It's a somatic body reaction to something. It can be a saying, it can be a smell, it can be a word, it can be a memory, it can be an imagination. It's so strong that we have to really watch out for them. And if we're in a relationship that keeps arguing, we're triggering again and again and again. It's really, really unhealthy. So when you shut me out, it reminds me of how I felt as a child when no one listened. So when I see my couples, one thing I do is actually observe them. So I leave them to it. I say, I feel for me. How do you feel separately? And then I get them to have a conversation. Tell me about yourselves. What's it like living together? And they start having a conversation with each other. So I can really look at how they interrupt each other, how one of them shuts the other one down, how they connect with each other, going, oh yeah, I know. Yeah, you tell that story. You're better at telling that story than me. And then the other person goes, no, but you tell the ending because actually it was you that had the story. You can see how that dynamic is playing out right in front of you as a therapist. And it's really important to see that part so that when you actually start talking about I can see how you argue. I can see how it then perpetuates into whatever it actually ends up being. And it's quite, one of the things my clients say to me is, you seem to be able to put stuff in a nutshell. They will say these long, big sentences and their story, which is very important. But then I go, and is this what you're trying to say to me? And what I'm trying to teach couples and therapists is actually, shall we do that already? Shall we get the couples to be able to talk about it in a story-like way, but actually tone it down to a few sentences going, I'm so unhappy. If you don't talk to me soon, I'm not sure whether I'm going to be here anymore. And I'm hoping the other person will go, I didn't know you were feeling like that. What's going on? Instead of, oh, not that again. You said that last week and you're still here. What's going on with you? It's too dismissive. Even though they've said at the end, what's going on for you? That might be an opportunity to go in, but they've already discounted what you've said in the first place. So the communication between all of us is paramount to relationships going well. Okay. So I want to talk about how do we rekindle the spark. So when we talk about the patterns of a relationship and how we are stressing so much about the arguments that we're having. So in my therapy room, I say, you know, you've got your life here. Okay. Fingers are not moving, life here. Okay. And you'll go to parties, you'll take the children here, there, and everywhere. You'll see friends, you'll go to the pub. You might go to a quiz night, you know, and all that time you two are fairly okay. But here is the river underneath the relationship. Okay, oh, I'm looking very sinister when I'm doing that, sorry. That's what's happening. So up here, you're doing whatever you need to do, especially practicality things. Believe it or not, the house gets cleaner. Everything seems to come together because actually you're trying to avoid, okay, that part of you that's not so intimate because you're arguing all the time. So you avoid that. So everything that practical happens better. But underneath everything you ever do, everything you ever say, everything you ever, people that you meet, there is this underlying tension that you carry around with you. And what I want couples to do is come to therapy, or if you don't come to therapy, sit down one day and go, what's the matter with us? Why are we arguing in the way that we're arguing? Why aren't we happy? Why is it that we keep doing this loop with each other? Is it because you've come from chaos and I've come from calm? Is it because actually when we explode together, I don't give you what you need because I get walking on eggshells and then you get angry with me? Or actually, is it okay for me to be as calm as I am, for me to be me? And maybe for you to think about actually your escalation is a little bit too high. We've got to have all these conversations because we're looking at behaviors here. We're not looking at personalities. These are behaviors that I want to really instill in people. What behaviors are you using to get your own way? And actually, they're not working because the arguments just keep coming and coming and coming. So remember the power struggle we need to come out of, not stay in. So I'm a great believer in ritualistic stuff. Okay. So ritualistic stuff is when you do something on a basis where it's regular, you keep doing it. Okay. So it embeds, it sounds a bit sort of like contrived. My couple say to me, you know, this 15 minutes checking in with each other. It sounds a bit contrived. It is. Let's be honest. It totally is contrived. But unless you start doing it, you won't do it. Okay, and after 3 weeks, it's all clunky and like, oh, this is awkward. And after 3 weeks, my couples come in, they go, I absolutely love that. I felt really close to my partner. And it's for 7.5 minutes each, 15 minutes in total, 7.5 minutes each. And when they first do it, they do 3 minutes. I am okay today, felt happy today, felt a little bit low this afternoon. A few things went wrong. But now I'm home. I feel good. Yeah, glad to be here. That's it. The other person's not rescuing the other person from that. They're just hearing their emotions for the day. Then the other person. And the lovely thing about it, they actually sit there after 3 minutes and go, I've done mine, but they're not allowed to let the other person start. They've got to sit with that person for the 7.5 minutes. So they're eye contact. And at the end, they hug and re-hug. So David Schnartz talks about hugging and re-hugging. So we hug, and automatically as humans, we pull away. It's almost like, they probably had enough. Okay, what we're doing is re-hugging. We're setting our nervous system to go down. And actually, if you do it long enough, your hearts actually start beating at the same pace because your nervous system is settling right the way down. It's a beautiful thing to do. Absolutely love doing that. Cuddling is really good for you as well. So what we need to do is do some of those little intimacy things along the way. Okay, so sort of what I call 10-minute touch rituals. Okay. And what I do, I'm not talking about sex here. I'm talking about eye contact, maybe holding hands while you're doing the 7.5 minutes each, if you choose to, being really close to each other, sitting like this right next to each other so you can see each other. So these are little tiny sort of 10-15 minute things to start getting you back into that process of aligning with each other. So what's one habit from your past you notice playing out in your relationship? Okay, I think this is a really strong question. I want you to think about it. As therapists, as couples, as individuals, I want you to think about what's one habit from your past you notice playing out in your relationship. I can answer that straight away. Defensiveness. Okay, that's mine. So I've worked on that for years. It's so important to hold that space for myself, to not be defensive, because it actually gets me nowhere. I suddenly, what do you mean by that? Why are you talking to me like that? So it's not coming from a place of curiosity at all. It's coming from a place of fear. And what we've got to do is actually go, no one's attacking me. They're just asking me a question. They're allowed to ask that question. I can choose whether I answer it or not. So really regulating that part of you, the John Gottman, the 4 emotions that we can have or behaviors that we can have, really start to regulate them. Okay. So have a think what yours might be. So awareness is the first step to breaking the loop. When you become aware, are we arguing again? Are we actually arguing about the same thing again? But it feels like it's wrapped up in a different bow. Remember, a lot of the things that we argue about is coming from a place of disrespect. So my example is usually a cup left just above the dishwasher and the dishwasher's empty. So it's not about the dishwasher. It's not about the cup. It's about the person saying, the dishwasher's empty in the morning because I do it the night before, which I'm happy to do. But when you get up in the morning, you never put anything in it. Could you do that? Yes. Next morning you go and the cup's there. It's about having that respect to go, I can easily put that in there. That's one thing. And there's a warmth to that respect that starts building and building and building. What are you asking from each other and what is done and not done? And how could you look at that as a couple? So we need to create a new pattern. How can we do that? First area is awareness. How can I become more aware of myself? So the inner child work, the family of origin, where have I come from? Don't be scared of that. A lot of people are worried about that we're blaming parents. We're not. We're saying this was my experience. Now, how do I navigate that as an adult? What makes me go back there? What makes me feel like I'm 7 and 12 in a grown-up relationship? So we're looking for some maturity, emotional maturity in a relationship. And if we do the inner child work, no one else can press our buttons anymore. Not our partner can't touch it. They would be able to say, you know, if they were being horrible, oh, so and so and so. You would say to them, yeah, I know you know that, but it doesn't affect me anymore because I've pressed that button for myself. So that's what we're doing. We're learning it all for ourselves. Full awareness gives us the opportunity to choose whether we react to something or not. So we're not stonewalling. That's different. We're saying emotional regulation. What you're saying to me makes sense, but tell me more. When you get to telling me more, is it where I am in the relationship as well? And that's where we're looking for Socratic questions, opening the relationship up. If we say, do you love me anymore? Yes or no? We've shut that down straight away. That won't be answered. Okay, because actually not being with someone or saying I don't want to be with you is really, really difficult to do. What we're asking for is, how do you think the relationship for us is going? Let's have a really hardcore conversation about it. And like admin hour and the 15 minutes intimacy, 15 minutes about the let's talk about us. Let's do half an hour, 15 minutes for us, like an MOT. Actually, in January, I'm starting an MOT clinic for clients, for couples, because it's really important. You know, you wouldn't put a car on the road, or you're not allowed to, are you? Are you having that MOT? Are we okay with each other? Is there anything that you'd like me to do for you and vice versa? And is it available to you in this relationship? So have the conversations with each other. Give yourself the opportunity to do that. Okay. Whew. Wow. I'm going to end a little bit earlier, not because I'm in Spain and having a really good time, just to let you know that. I want you to think about any questions you've got about this that you put on the Facebook page. I'm happy to answer any questions. I really love getting the emails and the responses that you give about the lives that I do, and I will continue to do the lives and talk about things that interest me. By all means, send some stuff in that you want me to talk about. I'm happy to do that as well and explore that with you. And yeah, I really, really look forward to seeing you. I think we might be changing the live in December just because it's so close to Christmas, but we will let you know on the Facebook page. Lots of love, and I will see you all very soon. Bye.